Hello, welcome to the CTO Demon Channel. This week, I went to the Taiwan Society for Cardiovascular Intervention TSCI summer meeting in Kaohsiung. I met up with Paul Gao, Scott Harding, Wataru Nakamatsu, and Matsuno, a small group of our APCTO friends. And we discussed what theme we should be using for our CTO teaching this year. As you know, APCTO have many meetings in many countries through the year. And each year we try to focus on a theme. Last year's theme was safety, based on the safety consensus paper written by the Global Group for CTO PCI. I suggested that this year the theme should be balance. This is really based a little bit on the philosophy of CTO PCI, which I made a video earlier. I'll see the link in description below. You see, CTO PCI shouldn't be just like climbing a tower or climbing a pyramid. We shouldn't be chasing after success, ignoring all other aspects. Instead, what we suggest is that in CTO PCI, we should have a triangle. We should have a triangular platform where there is safety, success, and speed. And we should try to balance all these three things on this platform and push the platform up together so we achieve safety, success, and speed together. Now, we realize that most operators don't stand squarely in the middle of this platform. Rather, we have a tendency to stand either one side or another. For myself, for example, I stood very near the success side of CTO PCI, especially early on. I would chase after success really at the jeopardy of safety and speed. Now, if you do that, however, there's a chance that you're going to fall off the platform. Now, we need to know ourselves because different operators stand on different parts. Some operators stand very highly on the safety side, and the procedures take a very, very long time. And in the end, well, after 6, 7, 8 hours, the procedure fails and we fall off the platform. Others stand very tight on the speed side. We go very, very fast, but again, a complication occurs and we fall off the platform. Each of us stand on a different part of the platform, and we need to know where we stand. We need to know which corner we tend to go towards so that we pay attention to more carefully consider the other corners so that the platform can raise us up and we can achieve safe, speedy, and successful CTO PCI. Now, we're discussing this and we're talking first about risk. Those of you who've seen the MLCTO episode, see the link in description below, know that I talked a little bit about the risk on the safety corner. And I talked about the risk of each step, each option of the procedure, and the net risk of the procedure. So the example I gave was that this RCA CTO that ends a distal cap at the PLPD bifurcation. We're going antegrade, but we fail to wire. If we keep going antegrade, there's a risk of losing either the side branch, and that's quite a high risk. Maybe already there's some hematoma, and we're standing at maybe a 50% chance of losing one or the other branch, causing a peri-procedural MI. The septal is relatively easy. And although crossing that septal has its own inherent small risk, if we cross the septal, we negate the risk of losing the side branch because we can preserve both side branches by going retrograde. So although the septal has a small risk, the net risk of the procedure is decreased when we go retrograde because we preserve the side branch and remove the risk of continuing antegrade. This concept of net risk and the option risk needs to be very clear in our mind. But Scott Harding, he added another concept. He added a concept of dynamic risk. What this means is that if we are crossing the septal and we're not successful, and hematoma starts to form in these septals, getting bigger and bigger, at that point, the risk of the CTO is going up. The risk is dynamic, it changes. And in balance then, the risk of the AV groove now is dropping. Because although the AV groove channel by itself is usually a higher risk channel than the septal, but now the septal channel's risk is increased, antegrade risk is increased. Relatively speaking, the AV groove is now the lowest risk, and it will produce the lowest net risk for the procedure. So we choose the AV groove. But if we're going through the AV groove and it turns out to be very difficult to put a microcatheter through, we need to think again. We need to reassess the risk. The risk is constantly needing reassessment because it's dynamic. And we reassess the risk again and again to choose the lowest net risk option for the patient. That's all covered in the MLCTO episode, but what I did not go further to say is, not only do we have to do this kind of analysis for safety, a very similar analysis has to go on, a dynamic analysis for success. Because each choice we make, each option we make, has a different success rate. And this success rate also differs between operators. For example, let us say I'm a very strong antegrade operator and my retrograde is a little bit weak. I'm doing an RCA CTO, mid RCA this time, not a distal cap. Our first wire has gone subintimal. I know I have an 85% chance in being able to get the true lumen with a second parallel wire. That's good. But I know I can also do the septal, and once I can cross the septal, I almost have a 95% chance of success. But my septal crossing success rate is only 70%. So balancing these two analyses, my antegrade success is going to be higher than my retrograde. So I go with parallel wire. On the other hand, if I'm a very competent retrograde operator, I know I have a 90% chance of crossing the septal channel, and I have a 99% chance of successfully crossing after I get retrograde, then the success is going to be higher with retrograde than with parallel wiring. So we need to constantly analyze, depending on our own skill sets and our own abilities, the success rate that is also dynamic. Because if we cross the septal and we start to cause a hematoma, that success rate is going to start dropping. And going back to antegrade with parallel wiring may be better, maybe having an overall higher risk, higher success, I mean. But also for speed. Speed is just the same. Going parallel wire may take 5-10 minutes. It's very fast. Going retrograde is going to take you longer. You're going to have to start putting a guiding catheter in retrograde, putting mitral catheter. That's definitely going to take longer. Speed is definitely longer for retrograde than for parallel wiring. So that also we have to consider. And we have to balance all three. If the distal cap is in the bifurcation, that's very different from when the distal cap is before the bifurcation. If it's before the bifurcation, Stingray may be a very fast method, and Stingray is safer than retrograde. So we'll have success, speed, and safety on our side if we go Stingray. And Stingray usually is, people are usually better at Stingray than retrograde. But on the other hand, if the bifurcation is in the distal cap, we have to sting both sides, then Stingray becomes a very long procedure and lower success rate. Stinging both sides is lower success rate, and retrograde becomes a much more attractive option. So at any moment, we're actually analyzing risk, success, and speed, and doing dynamic calculations of each based on our own skill sets. So how do we keep this platform balanced? And how do we lift this platform up? Well, 3 wires hold this platform. 1, increasing skill sets. This is not just increasing the number of skill sets, but increasing the efficiency and success rates of our skill set, being good at each skill, being good at IVUS guided wiring, being good at Stingray, being good at retrograde. Second is innovation. We need to have the latest gear. We need to have the True Ivers. We need to have the Guardian X4. We need to have this new gear that helps us get ahead of the game. And third is instruction. We need education. We need to know our algorithms. And we need to know not only instruction from outside, but instruction about ourselves. We need to know what we are good at and what we can do. Usually, operators are very good at knowing what they are speedy at and what they are not. And they're very good at knowing what they can successfully do and what they can't. But they're not so good at estimating the risks, the safety aspects. And we need to improve on that. And with these 3 wires, we hope we can lift ourselves up to successful, safe, and speedy CTO PCI. And that's, of course, the aim of this channel, that we exchange ideas and we get better, safer, and faster in the art of CTO PCI. So I hope you like this episode. Subscribe if you do, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.